as a media studies undergraduate with a background in media, I'm very, very interested in media analysis. As you can tell, I originally put this to Ostca up for a competition for a poster. Apparently I was the only person who wanted to do a poster, so they asked me to do it as a paper. So I do have a poster for you today, which has all the same information as what a regular presentation would as well. Again, I've been very interested in media analysis because of my background as an undergraduate student. I did a media analysis specifically on the show Scandal. Are any of you familiar with the show Scandal? Exactly. The majority of the room is, because it's one of ABC's top shows. They are now working on their 5th season. I put in my purpose and hypothesis, more people, whenever I was doing my research, I realized, which I don't have the specific number up there because it didn't look real pretty, but more people are watching this show annually than there are Americans turning in their taxes on time. I thought that was very interesting. Scandal, as I said, is one of ABC's top shows. There are 9.1 million people who view this show every night whenever it airs. I think that's very, very interesting. That is a massive amount of people. It covers the life of Olivia Pope, who is a PR specialist. I like to say she's a PR maven. And this show, she's absolutely amazing. This show, it's very, very, very loosely tied to Judy Smith, who was a former White House secretary, press secretary. I say very, very, very loosely. There are a few specific things that they do within the show that relate back to her, but a lot of it is really dramatized and grandiose on a much larger scale. This show takes place in Washington, D.C. Olivia Pope, who again is a PR specialist, she defends the public's opinion of our nation's elite. This is, as I said, it's already a very popular show. Whenever I did my research, however, there were only 3 seasons available on Netflix, which is the only way that I could find that I could watch the episodes over and over and go back and analyze and reanalyze and make sure that I got the right information. So when I did my research, as I said, there are 5 seasons available as of now. I only analyzed 3 seasons. What I looked specifically for in Scandal, I was in a class, and we talked a lot about media framing, or the framing theory. This was originally brought up by Goffman in the 1970s. This theory kind of blew my mind, to be honest, and I found it so interesting. It doesn't tell people what to think, but it presents information in a way that it's skewed and biased in such a way that it influences how people make choices on how to process that information. So it's not agenda setting necessarily, it's not telling them what to think, but it's almost telling them how to think about it. Does that make sense? Fairhurst and Sarr stated in 1996, they did a lot of extra research on media framing specifically, as well as Goffman later contributed more information to this theory later. They stated that it's almost like a second step or a second tier agenda setting. It's a little bit different, but it's very closely related. I thought this was very, very, very interesting, especially because there are 3 specific frames that they use in media. They use procedural frames, which fit media practices. They use cultural resonance frames, which make sense of the audience's world by reducing ambiguity and endorsing social norms and values. When Goffman did his original research, this is the only frame that he really pointed to because his research was specifically on news media and how the news really made the audience feel comfortable in the world that they live in today by basically saying, you know, bad people do bad things because they're bad, and then bad things happen to bad people. You know, it's making you feel comfortable in the world that you're in today. The third frame, which was actually contributed by Shafili in 1999, was the magnitude frame, and it's generally endorsed by elites within society, such as politicians. Now, though, what you see, we see a lot of movie actors, really, really rich people that are getting behind certain topics, and that's considered a magnitude frame as well. Even though they're not politicians, they still have a lot of sway, merely because they're still an elite within the American society. Again, as I stated before, I only viewed 3 seasons when I did my media analysis. But I did find that 2 out of every 3 episodes involved some sort of media frame. And I found that very, very interesting. So in a way, you might think that Scandal is almost a how-to brochure book for Americans to see how news and popular media today is almost duping them to kind of help them assimilate information the way that they want you to. And I think that's very interesting. Within each media frame and within the episodes, there are media framing techniques. Because she is a PR specialist, she walks through, no, we don't need to say it this way. I want you to state it like this in this press release. I want you to state it or say it like this in this news release. You need to wear this so you look this way, so people will think you're this way. I mean, they walk you through step by step of how these frames are achieved, and it's really, really amazing when you sit down and you take apart a piece of culture like this and a piece of media like this. Some specific examples that I have here, procedural frames, again, they fit media practices. One example would be, there was an episode with Lisa Kudrow that shows how media reacts to female politicians, which are much more common today than what they used to be, and why they do or do not get coverage. If someone is not necessarily presenting a wholesome female image, something that really resonates with American society, they might actually get more media coverage because, look at this person, they're not doing what we think they should be doing, right? But also, there's a flip side that if you are almost the perfect woman, you probably won't get as much coverage because, if you were the perfect woman, you probably wouldn't be in politics. So, obviously there's something hiding there. And I thought that was very interesting. They also showed how underdogs in political races, one thing that Goffman said very particular in his framing theory in the 1970s was that in news, they specifically said that elections are deemed as competitions. There are winners and losers, and that's where we get that idea from. In this particular episode, it shows how underdogs in the political race will gain media coverage in a media lax campaign. Thus, because they really don't have a shot, they're going to get more media coverage because it's establishing the loser, because it's a competition. Cultural resonance frames, again, it's reducing ambiguity. The episode about one of the co-stars, her name was Abby, her abusive ex-husband comes in on a panel in Washington, D.C. He is a governor, and he comes in and works very closely in the same office that she's in, and he kind of falls on his face. And this is just showing that even with great political power, he was very abusive in their marriage. So even with great political power, bad people still don't win, right? The good guys win. If you're doing something bad, you're going to get some sort of discipline or fall on your face. And that was kind of endorsing that social norm or American value that we have, that the good guys win. The last frame that was shown, an episode with President Fitz, endorsing gun control, was actually on the same week. They showed this the same week that a bill for gun control was up for consideration in the Senate. And I thought that was very, very interesting. Something that magnitude frame does is it shows how endorsements can change the view of media coverage. If someone that America loves gets behind an issue, it will probably get more media coverage because they really, really like that person. Obviously, it's probably a good thing because that person likes it because they're behind it. And this really showed that. The media coverage, because it was on ABC's top show, the media coverage of this bill went up quite a bit. And again, I don't have the time to go into those numbers. But that was the media analysis over framing theory, or media framing, that I conducted over the show Scandal. Thank you for your time.